Peace to the world. We are back live for another episode of the Think Muzic Podcast. This is the Gnosis.
Stab Dunlap back in studio.
Back in the studio.
Last few weeks you caught me in the field. Stayed up mad late last night messing with some music. And yeah. I laid down at like a little after 4:30 or something like that.
Mm.
I wasn't gonna go clean at 6:30. And I was like, well, I'm just up. I might as well just stay up. But at like 4:30, I got like 2 hours, and it was like I was like, oh, should I go back in the studio? Should I mess with some music? I wound up just watching the news, and then the news started watching me, and and then you called me, and it was like 7, and then I was like, oh, maybe I could muster. And then I was just like, nah, I'll lay back down. After we chatted for a minute, it's like I'll lay back down. And yeah. And then I just got back up, popped up just to check my phone to see if you sent me the email or what have you. And now we here.
So what's up?
Yep. And just real quick, man, before we get started, I would just like to give a quick shout out to a producer friend of mine that passed away yesterday. And I had never met him physically, but we talked on Hangouts a lot. And he was a good dude. His name was Black Mav. He was an ill producer. He could rhyme, and he had his knowledge about him. I'll say he had his consciousness about him. And on those hangouts, sometime it would get down to, people start falling off, and I worked late at night, so I would be on to when it was, when everybody just left, or sometime I would check out. But a lot of times it would be like me, him, and maybe somebody else, and we would just chop it up, Peace-wise feminine.
Peace-wise feminine.
So he left a wife, a young daughter behind. And I just wanted to give a condolences to his family. You could check his music out at www.blackblacmav.bandcamp.com. He has a bunch of material on his Bandcamp page. If you just like ill hip hop, he's ill with his production. And I'm believing, because I'm gonna go over there and support him, and I'm pretty sure he has it set up to where whoever supports him over there, his wife should be getting that now. Because even with my Bandcamp, my wife kind of know my situation, so if anything come in, she will if something was to happen to me and people supported me on Bandcamp, she would get that. That would be a way to support, because I know people don't know my wife personally. And so yeah, check him out on Bandcamp. He's a good brother, man. Hate to see he went out. I may have heard how he went out, but I'm not super sure, so I'm not gonna say. But ill producer, good dude, and yeah, he'll be missed. So just want to just start off with that.
Yeah, no doubt. Brother, rest in power. I also, along the lines of giving honors, I want to give a shout out to my pops.
Ooh.
This evening. This would have been my pops' 84th solar return.
Wow, on today?
Yep, July 30th. He was a
Wow.
he was the epitome of the Leo lion.
Mm.
So shout out to Henry Robinson this evening. Um, so yeah, we want to pay homage to just some of our folk who've gone on to the other side, you know. Um,
Yes, blessings, brother.
so so that we are thankful and thoughtful to still be here, in the flesh, obviously for a reason and for a season
Mm-hmm.
and for a purpose or several purposes. And I think that's
I would like to play something for you, Pops, if you don't mind.
no doubt.
I can get my pewter acting right.
Your pewter should have did it pre-chord.
Oh man, what's going on with my thing?
Pre-chord.
Like all my electronics is acting silly today. Windows don't want to recognize my machine. There we go. I'm sorry, man. This is so random. Um, but I thought it would be cool to play a track that that you felt represented your pops. Something you know we'll work on in the future. Um, but yeah, man. How was your week?
Uh, Good week, man. Busy. Um, Been doing a lot of readings.
Yeah,
Um,
how's that coming?
it's going well, man. I mean, it's picking up. I'm, my wife is low key prophetic. Like when I told her I wanted to, what's up, Flex?
Peace, Flex.
When I told her, I felt pushed to go into the astrology, is like for actually doing it. Um, she was like, "Well, I know it's your calling," and she was like, "A lot of the people who gonna want to get readings are gonna be young folk, like in their 20s." I was like, I don't know. I don't know about that. But that's who it is. At least the majority of them. And so it's just amazing, just because I know where my mind was at 21, 20,
Right.
22 on bullshit. Um, so it's tripped me out to see how this younger crop, they got their shit with them too, just like every generation. Um, but there's a certain freedom of thought that they seem to have, um, that allows them to explore and want to know more. So it's just amazing some of the questions they asking, but either way, yeah, that's been the gist of the week. Um,
Yeah, I think what you're saying too. The young kids now, they understand the matrix a little bit, and I don't think they want to. I don't think they want to be a part of it. I think they want to be a part of it changing. And with us being in the information age, they starting to see some things that you know that maybe we weren't privy to. You know, at our age, they're starting to see things earlier, and they questioning probably a little more than we did also,
mhm,
um, which I think is dope. So, um, yeah. Hold on, man. Give me 1 second, bro.
mhm. Yeah, I think I was talking to my wife earlier about those that like in their 20s. Like maybe there's a degree of things, restrictions that they have not experienced, and it can be good and bad. The 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 restrictions they have not seen or experienced can maybe, for some, create a degree of dismissiveness on the negative side, but on the positive side, like we said earlier, it can open up the mind to explore and go beyond the boundaries. Um, Now, that exploration may not always be in the direction that's most helpful. That's the so it's always duality, you know. But I think then too, I feel to be alive now at this age, I it's I know you have responsibility that if some of these younger folk come and they have questions and they're seeking, you have a lot of responsibility to be mindful of what you saying and how you saying it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? At least for me, that's how I feel. Um, and I think that generation from, 20 something, or maybe even 30 on back, I think it is greatly because of them that we see what's going on in the world right now. Because that level of curiosity they have is troubling if you are a part of the nefarious established order. Because their curiosity, if steered correctly, can be very positively disruptive.
Mm. Yes. I think I found this track, and when I made this track, uh, Jamal said we titled it. He titled it Hank's Wild Turkey, and Henry was his dad. Nickname for Henry is Hank. So just wanted to play this for his pops on his you know on the day on his birthday.
Yo,
Yes,
that's dope.
yes. I said whenever I told Jamal, I said, "Bruh, and whenever you write to that, it's gonna be crazy." Um,
Yeah.
Peace,
Here
Leonard.
go another Robinson checking in.
Hey, family in the house.
Leonard Robinson. What's up, bruh? My bad.
Oh, nah, I was just saying, whenever when you get to this joint, it's gonna be vicious. It's,
Yes.
it's nice and empty for you to just bar it down.
Mm-hmm.
Pure melodic minimalism.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, midlife crisis is the topic. Um, I came to Jamal with some, you know, personal things that I was going through, and I sent him a video a few weeks ago. Um, I think it was something Life at 40. And I watched the video. I had this video on my watch later forever. No, not on my watch later. It's been in my recommended. I think I did have it in my watch later. And I thought I was seeing it in my recommended. And then I put it in watch later. And so one evening I'm cleaning and I put the video on. I think it might have been like 40 minutes to an hour somewhere in there. And I put the video on, I watch it, and it's about midlife crisis. So in this video, they go into the origins of it and the philosophy behind it, and and what I guess in this sense men feel when we hit that that time frame. So for me, I'll say uh, the first thing I had to do was admit something was going on. And, I'm a guy that hate cliches. So, you know, I I've heard of midlife crisis before and what you know, the the supposed um feelings you get from it or whatever. You hear it in movies and, passing through, but it's never something you really, think about. I'll say probably 2017. Um, I really started getting hit with it, and um, I didn't know I didn't know why these feelings were coming in. Uh,
2015.
I want to say 17,
Mm.
maybe like yeah, because this is what 21. So I think 17 is when I was really in my mind, uh, like thinking about what's going on with me, and you know, uh, and it was kind of overwhelming. And I was, really trying to sit down and figure it out, and I had a lot of thoughts coming to my mind, and so what I believe it was we were talking earlier about um, what your knowledge base is. You know, my knowledge base at I'm 45 years old, so my knowledge base at 25 isn't what it is today. But I've always been a seeker of information um, since I was young, and peace, God, science, and what I so getting into that realm of like wanting to understand and find out the mechanisms behind how the world works. I begin to you know delve into information, stuff on it, for the quote unquote truth seekers, conspiracy guys. Um we run to Freemasonry and all of that type of stuff, and quote unquote occult knowledge and things of that nature. And I ran in that world, and reading a couple of autobiographies of artists and things like that, and just trying to want to understand what's going on behind the scenes. um I also, there's been times in my, I grew up in church a little bit. I didn't go, uh, for 15 years straight, but when we lived in New Jersey, I had an uncle who owned a church, and we used to go to his church, and everywhere I lived, my mom would find a church and we would go. So there were times where I would pray, um, and then I would fall off from that, and come back to it, fall off, here and there. But one of my prayers used to be, I used to ask God for um knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and to show me things. And sometimes you don't really know what that may entitle. Not to say I didn't believe in what I was praying for, but um I will say I didn't recognize how it was coming in at the time. Um so I've always been a seeker, and even up until this point, just understanding more about what's going on around me, finances, history, things of that nature. When I get to 2017, I've accumulated a lot of information. Now you start thinking about, and I'll say especially on the money side of things and on the career side of things. Like, I was never a big proponent of college when I was younger, and not for any reason other than just the debt that comes with it. Like, I know you needed college for certain things, and to reach certain career paths in our society. I understood that point, and I had made a conscious decision to um get what I would call a name brand job. So, I work for Frito-Lay, I work for Coca-Cola, I work for our newspaper company back home, um, outside of numerous like temp agency jobs and stuff like that. But I was like, okay, I'm not gonna go to college, so the best route for me would be to get with a, it was the old '50s adage of, find a good job, work 40 years, get to go, watch, retire. You know what I'm saying? It was that mindset. Um, but because I am a seeker, and then with the advent of YouTube, um, my purview widening, and I began to watch things just, like I said, finances and history and, lectures of people that I've heard of, but, maybe never came across a book. A lot of people was uploading all of these things to the, um, yeah, Flex, likewise. Um, so when I sat back and I'm looking at everything I accumulated, I was like, okay, some things you want to implement. And, I'm married. I've been married for 8 years going on, next year it'll be 9 years. And I started thinking about okay, how can I implement some of these things that I'm learning? And within that, I became selfish because, where I should have been talking to my wife and bringing things to the table, I was thinking more of it as a soloist. Like I could do some of these things by myself, and I started having ideas of what life could possibly look like as a single person. And but what I should have been doing was telling my wife what I was going through and trying to and see how we could sit down and figure it out together. And I wasn't sharing these things. I've shared them now, but at the time I wasn't sharing them. And so I listened to this video, and it talks about when we get to this point, we start thinking about things we didn't do, things we could have done, and um how it's affecting us today. What happened was, so I watched that video. Then a couple days ago, I was, channel surfing, and Tamara Hall was on, and she was talking about her whole show was dealing with men um having midlife crisis. So um I caught two segments. And in one segment, a gentleman, he was in the corporate world, had a good job. Then he wanted to step out into entrepreneurism, and he did that. And it wasn't his business wasn't as successful as his job was in the corporate world. And him and his family began to struggle a little bit. And right as that happened, you know, um, he also found out he had prostate cancer, and he was going through this midlife crisis of like, what is he gonna do to support his family? And you know, one of the things was he was a little overweight, and he said his son, before the prostate thing kicked in, his son was like, "Dad, you look like you're pregnant." And he went and he was like, he looked at himself and was like, "Wow, um, that's kind of crazy." So he started working out. And then like a little while after that, he found out, he went to the doctors and found out he had prostate cancer. So he started, but he was internally dealing with everything. And he was married also. He's married also. And he was dealing with things internally and not bringing his wife in. So the byproduct of that was, he started, shunning his wife a little bit, and um because in his mind it was, we come with the concept of, a man supposed to be callous and show no emotion and things like that, and we don't want to be vulnerable, especially to, our significant other. And he was struggling with that. And but he wind up, and he was saying there's still even a struggle for him today. to, share some things, but that was the beginning of healing for him, was that he needed to share with his wife what was going on with him. And there was another guy on there that, he later, he says this later on, but he had a difficult relationship with his mom. And he compartmentalized that by saying that he wanted to be successful in life, and he achieved that. But he wind up going through a midlife crisis because he never figured out what was going on with him and his mom in his childhood. That was something that triggered his midlife crisis. And he said he was like, he had all the trinkets you supposed to want to be successful: the job, a wife, kids, couple bucks, you know what I mean? And he still went through the same situation. And the first guy was African American, the second guy was Caucasian. And when I listened to it, it was like, this thing hits people no matter your economic status, no matter your race, whatever. Like, when it come to you. And so I pan off of that, and then I'm surfing again, and I come across the preacher dude, last name Prince. I can't remember his first name, but he looked Asian, but he sound British, which is like mad wow to me. And but he was on there, and something told me I was gonna skip past, and something was like, just sit here for a minute. And he didn't have anything on the screen. He was just talking, and then he pulled up like a chapter and verse from Galatians in the Bible, and I can't remember what chapter and verse it was, but what it said was it was almost like the script was almost like a trust in God, believe in God and outside of yourself and all of that, like give it to God or whatever. So I'm watching all these things. The video from a couple weeks ago, I'm talking to Jamal. He pulls up my chart. He's telling me like I'm going through a transitional period. The last time I went through this period, I believe I was 27 or 28, I believe it was. I think he said it was around 05, 06. And then I had to go back and look, and I was going through a transformation then also, because that was the beginning stages of me getting ready to um split from my children, my older two sons' mother. And that's what I was going through at that time. And that was the beginning of my transformation, um, which is, how I got here now. Um, just, going from being homeless, living in the mission, and I stopped drinking and smoking weed, and um rededicated myself to my life first off, and then my sons' lives. And then, I turned the corner, um and also got some good information from um a mentor, I'll say, in a sense, a coworker named Calvin, that talked to me about some things I needed to hear. And also, when I was at the mission, my mentor, um uh I can't think of my man's name. Sick about that. But anyway, he shot me some information too, that that helped me at that time. Um so I'm sitting back and I'm like, yo, okay, what's going on? And I didn't want to admit it. And the first thing I had to do was admit it. Then the second thing I did was I told my wife what was going on. And then we had a good talk. And I told her, what I was feeling. And she was an ear, she listened. And then we formulated a plan. Um and we're going to move forward with that. But that's the gist, um of what I'm going through right now. Um and um I don't know, I've never met any men in my life that admitted they were going through a midlife crisis. So, when I was coming up, if I fall and scrape my knee and I'm crying, my dad was telling me to stop crying. I never seen my dad show emotion. Now I seen him show angry emotion, but I never seen a sensitive side of emotion from my dad. Like even like when my grandfather when his father passed away in '05, we go to the funeral. Like my dad didn't he didn't show no emotion at the funeral. And afterwards, we was talking. It might have been it may have not been directly after the funeral. It might have been like once I got back home or whatever. But I know I talked to him and was like, "Yo, pops, like, like did you even cry when your dad passed away?" And he told me he had a personal moment where he was by himself and he shared some emotions, but he didn't do it at the funeral, which is cool. I just needed to know, like, are you human? What I'm
Yeah.
saying? I was just like, yo, like, because I never seen my dad show any type of, like, I never seen my dad cry. I never seen my dad. My dad was just like, I thought my dad was like cast iron, bro. Like, for real.
Mine too.
Like, I never seen, like, I seen my dad, he'll smack fire from you or something like that, or something going on with a family member, they riling the troops up and going to handle, like, I seen all that type of stuff, but I never seen him, you know, um, show. And I don't know what that, as I'm getting older, I'll say like I'll say like maybe the last 15 years, I've been trying to get into my dad's psyche, and not in the sense of just being nosy, but I told my dad, I was like, yo, dad, I don't really know much about you for real. Cause we never sat down and he never said, sometimes you talk to your kids like, this this is something I like. If I'm telling him something I'm going through, he'll you can pull a story from your life and tell me something you did in the same or similar situation. Like, I never got that from my dad. Like, my dad whole thing was like, do not get left behind in this world. Figure out like, his whole thing was read everything you can read. Um uh be as knowledgeable as possible. Walk in the room, be quiet, peep the room out, then make your move. Like, he was giving me stuff like that. Like, he wasn't, you know what I'm saying? He wasn't saying, oh yeah, when I was 15 and like, it wasn't no, I didn't know nothing about my pop's childhood. You know what I'm saying? So, um, but for me, and then I tried to take on my dad's persona. Like, I tried to be callous. I tried not to show emotion. I tried to do those things. And then I had a revelation that that's not me. I'm not my dad. And I said this thing one time to myself. I'm like, yo, if God didn't want men to cry, we wouldn't have tear ducts. So, like, now, can you be overly emotional and all of that type of stuff? For sure. But, like, my dad was just, it was a thing where I was holding things back. And also, I think in turn, I had whoop first parents. So my mom was more whoop first. My dad was more talker. But there was things that when I look back, I wanted to share when I was younger that I was scared to share because I didn't feel like it was gonna be a talk, it was gonna be a whooping. And I don't like pain. So I kept a lot of things in that maybe if I would have shared when I was younger, it would have gave me some it would have freed me mentally as I was coming up. Um so you put all of that together, and um and that's just home life. That's not even when you get outside yet and dealing with, you know, people in your neighborhood, societal issues and all of that stuff. Um so I was just a quiet guy coming up. I wasn't a noodle. I wasn't out wilding. I wasn't out, I wasn't no hustler dude like that. I wasn't no super womanizer dude like that. Like, I was just, kind of laid back. Anybody that knew of me back then, it was like, oh, oh, that's Money Rhyme. He just rap, like, you know what I'm saying? He make a little beats, he rap, like he cool, like he don't do much. And and that was me. So, but when 2017 happened, my life situation was different. Um, and I was going through a mood of like, yo, how can I, be successful, and dialing it back to like the education piece. When I decided not to go to college, I knew I was going to be a laborer or somehow get into low level management, because, I posited that there's only management and laborers. And if you in management, you got a higher ceiling. If you're a laborer, you, I think your ceiling is probably being the warehouse manager. You know what I'm saying? And then it's like, when you get to a job, somebody already has that position. They sitting on that position. And, I seen that when I was at the newspaper company. Like I worked at the newspaper our company I worked at. I worked there for seven years, and a couple off and on. Um, but 7 straight. And it was like I was permanent part time, meaning um they're gonna keep you, but you get part time hours. And the only way you got there, the only way you can get in full time is like if they was hired in the press room, or if somebody in the mailroom where I work retired. Which the supervisor guy, he did pass away, and the lady that was under him told her she will vouch for me to take her position because she was taking his position. And she said I was the only one she would vouch for to take her position. And I had an opportunity, but I decided not to take it. Just for a whole nother reason. But so yeah, so I've been trying to figure out like what's going on with me. How can I find some successes? Because you start getting all this information and you want to implement it. Like, can I journal? I need to meditate. Um, you know, how can I a video? How can you make $1 million? And you start just seeing all this stuff and all this mindful stuff. And for me, it became overwhelming. And I was like, and then I came across this article the other day, because sometimes you can find things that fit your mindset. And I found an article that was like it helped keep me in that way, because in the article started off with, how can you you getting all these prompts, and I don't have a lot of notifications to my phone, but you get all of these prompts about, you know, uh reminding you to do this and that. Make sure you pray, drink your tea in the morning, and journal and share what's on your mind and go to yoga. And you get all these prompts. And when your life is like kind of in a flux, you see all these things that look positive, and then you're like, damn, but how can I implement all of this shit? And it become overwhelming, and then you kind of just stay where you are. But um so that's kind of where I'm at right now, trying to figure it out. um I think praying and meditating has helped, but I think also admitting that I'm going through a midlife crisis has helped also. And uh yeah, that's where I'm at right now, man. So thanks for letting me share that. And just personally, for me to be sharing this on the internet, like sharing it with my wife and talking to Jamal on the phone is one thing, but I don't know who's gonna watch this video from now to the future. And so for me to bear myself on the internet is huge for me, because I was a pocketed, you know, I'm private. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't really, you know, I'll talk in a small, circle or something, but to me sharing this online is big for me. Just know that. But thanks for letting me share, man. Appreciate it. And thanks for all the, people out there listening, and, you know, thanks for letting me share.
And that's real. That's real because the internet is so expressive. It is so yang generated.
Mm-hmm.
There's very, very little space for actual listening. And this is the opposite. I'm not trying to convince you. I'm not trying to have a pissing contest with you, you know, and off camera, I'm over here got 25 holes in the wall. I've been punching the wall and shit. Then I come on the camera. Hello, beloved.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I'm gonna have some rainbow cinnamon tea here. You know,
Yes.
because that pressure is there to put on your best face for the camera and the audience,
Right.
and it takes real courage to just get on here and just keep it real,
Yes.
and I think this is one of the reasons. I know everybody feel like they got the best podcast on the internet and everything, but it really ain't even about we consider us the best. I'm gonna tell you what, it's got to be up there in one of the realest podcasts on the internet. You know,
Right.
um, you might, whether it's me doing a video by myself or the podcast, you might hear a child pissing in the cup. You, you might, I mean, we might come on here and talk about midlife crisis, just whatever. This has got to be one of the realest.
Yo, you are silly, my G. Yo.
Check it up.
Oh my gosh. Oh, okay, I'm back.
Um, so what I wanted to do, man, is kind of let's take a deep dive because we're in the same basic age category. You knocking on 46. I'm 44, so we are both in the throes of the midlife crisis arena.
Right.
And so in 2017, you're 42.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to share something, if you don't mind, and I hope this will show up. It's small, but I hope it'll show up. People out there can see it. I just want to show something
Yeah,
because
guys, go for it.
astrologically, there's a significance to the midlife crisis, and really, that's why the title for this is Midlife Christ Is. Um, I don't think this gonna show up. It ain't gonna show up good.
And I
So
just want
look,
to say real quick, thanks, Wise Feminine. I see she said thank you, Dap. Thank you for listening, and Serious Biz also. Thanks everyone.
no doubt. I'll tell you what. I'm gonna pull my chart up again,
Okay,
or you want to pull yours?
now pull mine. Pull mine.
Okay, I got yours.
Because I think it was, once I told you, what I was feeling, and then you pulled my chart. I didn't know about charts during my last transformation, and like I said, but I did get a download of what I needed to do. I knew what I needed to do. On this one, I don't know what I'm transitioning to. Like I've been telling Jamal, like I've been feeling like getting away from information is one of them, and dialing more into my art. And the other thing about when you're in the midlife crisis, just before you build on that, it's like I have all these ideas pop in my mind with doing stuff with my channel. Like I just had this movie idea with my brother. I didn't even tell nobody. It came to me last night, and I was like, "Yo, I could do this." You know, I just got to call my brother and make sure he's free. I got the whole idea, like the whole thing came to me last night, the whole shit. And but during this crisis, bro, like it can also depress you and make and when you're getting these downloads to do something positive, you will fight them and just lay in the bed. Because I laid in the bed, thinking about all type of stuff that I should be doing and I can do, and ideas was coming and I didn't pursue them. So that was a little more icing, but you know, um, I think that fits in. All right, that's the chart.
Okay. Okay. So what I want to show here is, hmm, um, okay. This is where we come into the world at. First house, right here. Okay. This line right here is called the horizon.
All right.
From the first house over to the first house cusp to the seventh house cusp, which is basically the edge. This is called the horizon. Now, here's the deal. At the time we're born, everything from 1 through 6 is not visible because it is below the horizon. Okay?
All right.
Now, from a life perspective, the first 40 to roughly 42 years, we live underground.
Mm.
Okay? Because we are living, if you just say 7, 14, 21, 28, wait, let me see, 0 to 7, 7 to 14, 14 to 21, 21 to 28, 28 to 35, 35 to 42.
Wow. And before
Underground.
you continue, and isn't and I know me and Brianna has said this, but I guess every 7 years you go through it's your new cycle, right?
Say that again.
Every 7 years is like a new cycle for you. So at
Yeah, a new
42,
stage. A new
to start at a new
stage.
stage. Yeah, and okay,
Hmm.
okay.
And so if we consider this underground then, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now the word crisis etymologically means to scratch.
Mm.
So and we know when we get scratched, that's a form of irritation
Right.
and it exposes, depending on how hard we get scratched, will determine how much of our skin is exposed or what's beneath our skin. Now, the word Christ, like the name Christ, literally, etymologically means to scratch. So, crisis and Christ, in essence, are the same. And so, those first 42 years of our lives, it is like the seed is buried underground. And when we reach this point in our lives, this crisis, we're feeling the hardship, the irritation, the scratching of the seed attempting to break through the surface and to actually start growing. And what's happening is the first house and the seventh house are oppositions or they're also reflections. So what do we do when we start get to this point in life? We start looking at ourselves. We start examining our lives and we start saying, I'm not satisfied. Because basically when we come into the light, into the world, we come in as pure ego, first house. And what's happening is the ego is being slowly dissolved and integrated as we move around the wheel. And by the time we get over here to the sixth house, which is very important, it is the house of service. It is the house of sacrifice. It's the house of work. And so when we get to this point in our lives, we are feeling the toil of the work being that our souls are undertaking. It's a form of like a second birth. And literally, when we get to the seventh house, now we're to the point where we are attempting to balance, because we come into the world as pure one direction. Go forward, go ahead. Because the first house is naturally Aries house. And Aries, with its association with Mars, is the epitome of action. All the action houses are mimicking in some form or fashion Aries, because it's the first action. The first action that says, I am. And so I am is slowly being moved over to we are. And that's painful.
Yeah.
It's painful. It's painful. And then this first house, this identity, this ego starts pushing back and says, fuck this. Man, we came in by ourselves. We can make this work.
Right.
By ourselves. Now, here's the kicker. Every person who lives long enough is going to experience this in some form or fashion. Now, whether they're going to be real about it or whatever, who knows? But here's the thing that we're going to that we can say. I think it is even more difficult to navigate. Well, I can't say that. All I can say is it's very unique to navigate this at this time in human history, because we are so inundated with the idea of we.
Mm-hmm.
And this creates such a paradox, because you're moving from the whole thing of I over to we by moving to the seventh house.
Mm-hmm.
But in essence, when you function from the whole, when your development can be retarded by thinking by too much about we. What I'm saying is, all the stuff going on in the world right now, there's a lot of information being put out.
Right.
They're doing this, they're doing that. In Australia, this is going on. In Greece, this is going, in North Carolina, this is, and we're not supposed to put our head in the sand, but it is hard to navigate. And I got a family, I got responsibilities. I can't just put my head in the sand. So I need to be able to be aware of what all is going on.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm still a soul that's going through its own development.
Right.
And that adds extra difficulty to this. And I want to go back to something, touch on Wise Feminine and Worthy Maiden were kind of touching on that hard shell that that men may have a tendency to put up, and to be honest, women too now. And I
Yeah,
think
women are becoming a little callous out here in these streets.
because what's funny is that our parents, depending on their age, like my father was a part of the silent generation, but my mother was it is a baby boomer. The thing about the baby boomers is that they are the last of that connection to actual chattel slavery.
Mm.
However we want to say it went down, it was kidnapped on their land or slavery or however. We ain't getting into all that, the politics, but basically people being railroaded and their labor being taken to supply wealth. The baby boomers are like the last of that extension of that initial group that went through that. Okay. When we came along as Generation X, we're kind of given that title because people understood astrological cycles, and that meant that the potential is unknown. Well, the potential was realized, but how it would unfold was unknown because there was a reset with Generation X. And so now I think that is why we are here at this time having a conversation like this,
Yes.
because we are the first generation to even be entertaining such, at least for melanated people. So this is a pioneering effort in itself. Even to be able to sit down and say, I feel like I'm having some type of crisis. That
Hmm.
shit's unheard of in
Right.
1982, 1980, 1977.
Hmm.
It's unheard of. You got a crisis? Well, shit, I guess you better pull your shoulders back. Fuck you mean you got a crisis?
Right.
Got these kids I gotta feed. Um,
Put your head down, keep bulldozing.
Here's another one I want to throw out. This is something I always mention from my background with fitness. Pisces is supposed to be consciousness. Now, Pisces rules over here the 12th house. Okay? Pisces, one word for Pisces is consciousness. Pisces is conscious because it has taken in everything before it and it has absorbed it and assimilated it. From the fitness perspective, that's the same as proprioception. Proprioception means you are aware of yourself in space. So most people who never play sports, well, I'm not gonna say a lot of unathletic people don't have good proprioception. You know, the person who just kind of clumsy and can't move real easy. They don't have a lot of proprioception. That means they can't feel around them. And I think when we're talking about higher consciousness, what it means is it's a degree of heightened sensitivity, meaning we're able to feel things that maybe our parents and our ancestors maybe were cut off from just because of the cycle that they were in. We have cycled around in a time where the proprioception, i.e., the consciousness, is a lot higher, so that we can even sit here and entertain having a midlife crisis.
Right.
Although our parents had it, they just couldn't necessarily articulate it. So I, I wanted to throw out the north node in your chart is always very helpful. The north node in your chart and the north node, the collective north node. So right now, the north node is in Gemini, the current north node. So you would want to pay attention to the sixth house in your chart, and you would always want to, as a backdrop, you always want to be paying attention to the 11th house in your chart, because that's your fixed north node. But if we just look at where the north node is currently, because that's the it's the moving, transiting nodes. The sixth house is again the house of service. It's the house of work, sacrifice. But Gemini is in the sixth house. So it tells you what lens is the energy of the sixth house focused through. So that means service, sacrifice, work, analysis, focused through the lens of details, of communication, of the mind. So Gemini is perception. So maybe if I were reading this chart for somebody and we're looking at the current transits, I would say this may be a time to consider taking a new perspective on your service, on your sense of service, your sense of sacrifice, and to ask yourself, what am I willing to sacrifice for? And it makes sense because the seventh house is Cancer. What do I care about? We will sacrifice for what we care about. For me, my sixth house is in Taurus, and I have Jupiter in the sixth house. So I've always known that expansion comes through toiling. So when I get some people hit me up for readings, I'm like, I've told my story over and over. This is a decade of toiling from 2011. This is now 2021. And I told my wife in 2012, I'm going to study myself into a new career. But I didn't know what it was going to be. So sometimes we don't know how long a certain phase is going to last. But the sixth house, and I think the word for 2021 and for the sixth house and for everybody is endurance. Endurance. And see, endurance is a very feminine word. That's why the feminine energy can win, because it can endure. It's not because it's outwardly strong, it's that it can take energy and endure until there ain't no more left to take. And so that's another pain that we feel when we get to this midlife crisis. We're being forced to channel some feminine energy. Sirius Biz says stamina. It's another good word. Endurance. Another thing, just personally, the layout of the chart can also direct you as to how to move. This chart is very Western dominant. Well, not very, but there's a lot of there's a just look at it. Where's all the lines at? It's on the right.
Mm-hmm.
There ain't a whole lot of points over here. This is the east, this is the west. This is action, this is passivity, or let it come to fate. So if everybody this was this these charts is some amazing shit, because everybody got a code, secret codes to how they can progress. If I were reading this chart, I would say the work has to be active. And see, right now, even coming up on your birthday, what sign rules Gemini? Mercury. Not only are you having a solar return coming up, you got a Mercury return coming, because Mercury is in Leo, which rules the sixth your sixth house in Gemini. So the eighth house is insecurities, but the flip side of insecurity is confidence.
Mm. Wow.
So there is a light being shined through its most acute and most accurate lens, Leo.
So it feels like the push of, I started going back to the gym. I got the gym membership probably like a month ago, and started the keto, and these were things that, and this is before, like, I didn't get a read. I hadn't had a reading yet. I didn't know what my chart was saying, but I think that what this proves to me is, or at least what it shows me, is that these downloads I be getting, these downloads are lining up with this chart. Like, so the universe, or however we want to call it, it's but then it's on me to do the work. So it's like you say, reading this chart can give, it's like looking at the weather. We know what the weather may be like on Friday, so we got a chance to prepare. So looking at this chart is like, these are things coming online. Now I just have to do the work and remove the stagnation. Like Brianna said, um, you know, the remedy is action. So now you just got to do the work, and then the remedy is already set up for you once you do the work.
Yes,
You
and
got to.
and that's called fate.
Mm,
That's what the fate is. The fate is it is spoken. That's what the word fate means. It has already been spoken. Only thing left is, and that's when the Bible say faith without works. They're talking about astrology. When they say faith, that's the seventh house. That's the Venusian west side of the chart. Works is the east side of the chart, the Aryan side. Faith without works is dead. My bad about cutting you. Just
nah, you good. It's just, that's what I'm saying, man. Like looking at this chart and having this reading and this chart, and then as I cycle back at my memory bank and try to look at things, I'm starting to see the correlation now, um, with astrology and things that were lining up in my mind, and I'm, where is this coming from? Where is this coming from? And now, you know, my understanding is a little, it's clearer. So, um, so this is, so now I know it's work. Is work, 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 work. Is action, and and if you do the work, you're gonna get the result from it, and it seems to be positive results. But you're juxtaposing that with societal things, and I seen Sirius post something earlier in the chat about removing some YouTube channels. I've did some YouTube purging also. I did some Instagram purging. And this is all a part of transformation. I made an opus called Transformative Moments. And me and Jamal was talking about that months ago. And it was like when you listen to it, one day it's a part of our debut album, and and Jamal has wrote
Some
this.
amazing shit.
He wrote something. I don't even know what he wrote, so I can't say it's. I know it's dope just because he's a dope artist. But the shit's 20 minutes. So, but if we was to just play that and listen to the whole 20 minutes of the track, the shit is so therapeutic and melodic, and it, like, if we all listen to it, we may just have to do a listening party for it. And like, people, put your headphones on, sit back, we'll play the whole track, try not to talk through it, and I'm pretty sure you'll be able to tap into some emotions in yourself listening to this track. It's a special track. But now, doing that before I've had a reading, doing that before I have some of this understanding that I have now, I made that track and I called it Transformative Moments. It was something in the ether last year when I made that track, that was driving us to this point where we at tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. That something was Neptune and Sagittarius up here. This is a transformative moment.
Okay.
Neptune dissolves the current ideology, the current vision, the current philosophy, and on the lower level, the opinions. And with Neptune retrograde, this is inwardly directed. This is going on inside of the natal of the native, which would be you. This is your chart.
Mm-hmm.
And the 12th house is consciousness. So basically, consciousness is everything. This is where I go and pull something out of the ethers and pull it down, and it's in the future, but I don't know it's in the future. I'm just doing something. Transformative moments.
Right.
But that is mirroring your 6th house in Gemini. Because maybe you went to the future to bring a message back that you were going to need in the future. And so you could come back and recognize, like, yeah, I did this track called Transformative Moments. And what the fuck? I'm having a transformative moment.
Right. Because when I made it and we talked about it, I can't, something was going on with me then too, but it wasn't as, it wasn't as prominent as it is right now. I mean, it was there, but like, I wasn't at the point where I was like ready to, oh, this is what's going on and all of that. But it's how they say you being a creative, I put something in that track that, and it's like you saying, internally, I didn't know it at the time, but like you said, you pull something from the ether and it's for the future. You don't know it, and it's like, damn. So when I heard the track, I'm just like, yeah, I think this. Excuse me. I'm like, I think this joint's fire. And you like, I'm about to write to it, and I'm just excited off the music. Like, I'm not even, I knew it was melodic, and I knew it, I knew it had all of those traits to it, but I was like, I'm just, I'm just excited. But yeah, it was a circle back. We're gonna have to play that track, bro. Because I think that shit just fits. I think it fits for the people to listen to it and just zone out to it. Most definitely, man. So
Yeah, I you know, my pops used to always tell me that my 40s was gonna be the best time of my life.
Mm.
And I eagerly awaited turning 40. Soon as I turned 40, I had a stomach virus. Then later that year, I caught the flu for the first time in my life.
Wow.
And so, I mean, my 40s, when I turned 40, I ain't have no gray in my shit. This shit has been earned over 4 years. You know? And I remember like thinking like, man, my pops was on some bullshit. He talking about my 40s was gonna be my best time. Like, what the fuck, man? The universe has played me, because I was um and it's like I'm doing this, I'm about to do well, I got a person's chart I'm gonna do, and this person has Mercury in Pisces, and the person wants to know why is it I have trouble making contact with my guides. And I sat and looked at the chart and looked at the chart and looked at it. And I was like, I'll be damned. You're trying to think your way through with that Mercury in Pisces, and that shit don't work. Mercury has to yield to the Piscean water, the imagination. And I entered my 40s thinking my way through, expecting it to unfold a certain way. And it took, because I'm a very strong-willed person.
Wow,
Flex. Oh man, he said I got Cruella DeVille had 29. God damn. I had to finally realize, man, just like giving in to that sixth house, and it ain't like it's no to just work and not see the results you expect to see.
Yeah.
That's hard, especially for me, because my chart is a lot of shit over here on this side. So I always think I can make the shit happen. Make it happen. Make it happen. So for me, part of the work is learning to let go and just work. Let go of the results and just work, which is maybe one of the most hardest and humbling things for me, which has contributed to my version of the midlife crisis. Because when you ain't necessarily had shit and you have some success, then you lose shit. It's maybe better to have never had shit, because then you're thinking, I know how to be successful, whatever that is, based on my idea. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then to not feel like you can achieve that again, what does it do? First house, it chops at that old ego. Chops at it, chops at it, chops at it. Until you get it chopped enough to where you start to learn. And then you learn enough, at least I'm going to speak for me, to learn enough to now, like my college football coach used to say, God damn, guys, act like you've been there before. So for me, it's been having to learn humility. Humility. For somebody else, it might be having just learning how to be consistent. Everybody's got their albatross. I start, I stop. I start, I stop. So that's a consistency thing. And so then we have to say, well, what's really behind the consistency? Confidence. Confidence breeds consistency. Wise Feminine said procrastinating. I wonder if your chart, if it's procrastinating, I would wonder if your chart has a lot of placements on the west side.
Oh, wise feminine.
Yeah, when procrastination's a struggle, it can be a lot of points on the west side of the chart.
Yeah, I got some procrastination in me.
But I didn't mean to go on a tangent there.
I think it was beautiful. It was needed, and yeah, these charts really open up the world to us because we're so clouded, man. And we didn't have this coming up. I ain't know nobody. You read the closest thing I got to some type of astrology was the horoscope in the newspaper. Like, you know what I mean? Or you see a tarot house on the way to the mall somewhere that say tarot on, get a reading, and then you seen all the, the TV stuff. Sylvester Stallone mom's a psychic, and and all of and what's her name? I forget the one African, the Jamaican lady, So that's like, that's the closest you get to this type of stuff, And then I will go into, like I said before, we used to have a bookstore in Stilton called Guide. I think it was something like Guiding Light or something like that. But at that time, when I used to go in that bookstore, I was seeking, but I wasn't. It wasn't on this. It wasn't on this. I was just trying to, find out what was, some philosophy books or whatever, like, things like that. But I wasn't going in like looking for anything in the astrology world. It wasn't until I bought that birthday book 10 plus years ago and was reading through that, and I wasn't even reading it for nobody else. I just really got it for me, just to kind of, that was my first real purview into, okay, let me see what I can find out about Tyrone through the stars, and then and then meeting you, and then you going in on wanting to understand astrology and what have you, and now we're here. I think synchronicity is a real thing, because when me and you met, I wouldn't have thought we'll be doing this right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I knew we had music in common, but I didn't know you was on the path to become, an astrologer in a sense, and you know what I mean, and the podcast coming up, to where now we're doing a chart on a live. I didn't see this a few years ago. You know what I mean? I'm just like, oh, we gonna do some music and put some music out, and hopefully it take off and go somewhere, and that's like where it was. So for the universe to put this brother in my life, and I think I told the story how we met before, or on some earlier podcasts, but shout out to my wife, because she sent me that. I turned her on to Dr. Eileen Bay. My wife is like very studious, so she was really good in her academic career at school and stuff. So she really takes things on. And she went through a bunch of Aleem's videos. She really liked Aleem, and she came across Jamal's video and turned me on to Jamal. So my wife is the reason that me and Jamal connected through Dr. Aleem's channel. And so I turned my wife on to Aleem. She turns me on to Jamal, and and then it goes from there. But I just want to say in real time, bro, it's a blessing to have an individual like you in my life. As I look back, there's been times where I've met,
Likewise.
appreciated. There's been times in my life where gentlemen has came in and have been, I guess, what I needed at the time. And I feel like this is one of those times. So, you know, and the blessing is, I hope we have a long and prosperous friendship, that, in 40 years we could be, man, remember we was talking on that podcast, and you know what I'm saying? Like, just bugging out. Because I don't really have, I got a couple cats I talk to back home, and and then, I got family I'm cool with, but I don't have a huge network of people. You know what I mean? Especially like in North Carolina. Like, when I moved here, outside of my coworkers when I worked at Frito-Lay, bro, like I didn't, I don't like, I can't call somebody and be like, hey man, I'm gonna come over and watch the game. You know what I'm saying? Or, let's go out and get a bite to eat, like outside of with my brother. And like one of my coworkers, Chris, like we was cool. But not being from here and growing up around here and all of that, like all I have is like my immediate family. You know, I met a couple people through my brother, but they pretty much tight with my brother. Like I'm cool with them, but it's pretty much my brother's friends. So, you know, Jamal and my friend Brian, and you know, my cousin Duquois, he calls me periodically. I talk to my cousin Fresh here and there, but my wife, Jamal, my mom, my brother, like that's my nucleus. You know what I mean? It's real tight and sweet, and but I like it. And what I like about having this small nucleus is that me and Jamal, we could talk about some quote unquote mundane things, and likewise with my wife. You kind of got to break the monotony of always just being in the information, um but I get, I feel like I could share with them things that may come across my mind, and it's not going to be man, that's BS, man. Like what are you thinking about that for? Like, nah, we're going to have a conversation about it. You know what I'm saying? And not a conversation of ingredients, just a conversation, period. And and I don't feel like I had, I didn't have that in the past. I kept a lot of things I was thinking to myself, because there was a time I felt like the people I was hanging around, they, not saying I'm some type of savant or I'm more smarter than anybody or whatever, but it's just I didn't feel like certain things I was thinking I could bring to the table with them, because I didn't feel like I was going to get a proper response. Like I always tell Jamal, like, if you going through something with your, all right, say you going through something with your girlfriend, and you tell your man, and he's like, yo, man, like, man, bump that bra, bro. Like, there's so many joints out here. I would just let her go and grab me another joint. Like, nah, I'm feeling my joint. I need to try to figure this out. Like, I don't want to leave her. Like, I want to figure this out. Oh, bro, man, let that joint go. You know what I'm saying? Bro, so many bad joints out here. Why you sweating that joint? Why you on that? And I'm like, nah, that ain't the answer I need, good brother. So, and what I did was, they always say people will reveal themselves to you if they talk long enough or what have you. So I'll just peep people movements. I'm like, oh, I could see how he already just in general talking about certain topics. Like he ain't going know what to say if I asked him this question. You know what I mean? So then I just started. This is where, and I think I was already born with being, uh, um, just a self analyzer anyway. But then when I see that, it just it you know it forces that to be my go to. You know what I mean? And then like my first real vulnerable moment is when I was going through my breakup with my kid's mother, and I shared some info with my coworker, and because he wasn't attached to me, he told me his real feelings on what I was telling him, and that was very therapeutic. You know what I mean? And it was what I needed to hear, but didn't want to hear. But like, he's just like, bro, like you asking me a question, I'm giving you the answer. Like, you gotta go. And I'm like, nah, but such and such. Nah, you gotta go. And then so it was like, um, and then I had small pockets of that. Then I could recognize, once I was able to recognize, okay, this person got some what I feel was wisdom about them. Then I was able, when I started running into people like that, then I could like share some, thoughts and, maybe something personal or what have you. But yeah, it was, I didn't really have that. So now I felt like I have that now, with my wife, I could, and with my parents, I have it. I share more with them now than I did when I was younger. But and then I got Jamal to bounce stuff off of, and my friend Brian, I could bounce stuff off him. He bounces things off me, and my cousin Duquan, and you know what I'm saying. So I have a small knit circle that isn't about, what do you think about Stafford getting traded to the Rams? You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, we could talk about that, but So yeah, uh, it's therapeutic to have that. I'll just say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Indeed. Wise Feminist said there's definitely a comfort level with like or open-minded individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's like very it's more important now than maybe ever, or than it has been in hundreds of years. Um because we are now here living at the convergence of several cycles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people made jokes about all the hoopla about the Saturn Jupiter conjunction back in December of 2020, but it was a big deal. Um, that conjunction culminated like a 20-year cycle, a 200 and something year cycle, and in like an 800-year cycle, all converged at once. Okay. Then when you put that with the fact that we three squares between Uranus and Saturn, and then we got a big conjunction coming up with Jupiter and Neptune. Like this is very, very dynamic times. So a lot is changing. A lot is changing. And so I think there's a level of angst if you're a person who has the ability to think more than 3 feet in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
There's a level of angst when you are constantly around stupid motherfuckers. Just to be
Right.
honest, you know, and we're still human. No matter how high our consciousness goes, we're still limited in these human vessels. And there's a longing to at least have some communication and interaction with those who vibrate on a higher level. Even if we ain't even always agreeing, you know,
Right.
that's fun too. You know, a
Yeah.
little intellectual jousting is
Yeah.
always a little fun, you know.
Yep.
But you gotta at least gotta know how to play poker for you get in the game. Like, god damn, you can't you can't be coming playing bid whiz, to the poker game.
Yeah.
So that was just to wise feminist comment. And I think that's probably part of why we gather here, you
Mm-hmm.
know, um, and why we kind of feel not obligated, but we feel like we got something. We've started something, and it's somewhat of a responsibility to do our best to get on here and have these conversations. Because look around the internet. Look around the internet. It's we be laughing about this like everything's entertainment tonight.
Yes. Everybody
Either
took on that model.
or either WWE or Entertainment Tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you something, Daddy. When I see you in the TV title match, I'm gonna take my belt back, sucker.
Right.
If y'all remember back in the day, Dusty Rhodes back in
Yes.
the back in the '80s. I mean, those are some great entertainers, and they was preparing us. They were preparing us for the internet back then. We didn't know it,
Nope.
you know. We
And,
didn't
and
know it.
and a lot of people took on those personas and begin to um like I think we really in a super opinionated space, and it's like we've been, like you said, prepped for it. And now, when cats found out, oh, I can create a YouTube channel, and listen, I get some benefit from people, but it's just overwhelming. Like YouTube is overwhelming, and you got to do a cleanse. I remember when I told Jamal, I was like, I subscribe to channels because one video. And I remember I looked, I did a purge. I did my first purge was a couple years ago. And I went through my channel subscriptions. Man, I might have been subscribed to probably close to 400 channels, bro. Like it was just
Wow.
like it made it, I may be exaggerating, but it was like, yo, it was so much like, oh, I like that video. So I should, like, instead of just liking a video, like, I'm subscribed to this channel. And then I don't watch the channel no more.
Right.
And then I don't know what video I watched on the channel or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, so I'm going through, and I'm like, okay, Then I'm looking at how often you post, because you know how people we get that euphoria, because I had it, oh, I'm doing some videos, and then I see you ain't did nothing for 2 years, 3 years. I'm like, why am I still following your channel? Like, I'm out. So I just started removing channels, and then I started removing, like, you know, some conscious channels too, because I just kept I just kept feeling like that I wasn't getting anything from it. Like, you just basically running that, you know uh that model of juxtaposing African American life against the government type talk. And and this is what they're, so I kind of got my thing is this, like, once my knowledge base grew a little bit, and I got some understanding that I felt was defining for me. Like, I can't, I don't need to do splinter talk anymore. Like, once I get to the foundation and I'm like, okay, this is how this started, it's splintered out to this. I started cutting branches off. You know what I mean? Because now all you doing is just reinterpreting the same shit every time you come on, finding a new way to talk about the same thing. Or if something happened in society, you come on and it's the same trope. So I cut a lot of joints off, you know, and then, like I said, going through this transformation period, I started following architecture channels and shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, things of that nature, of showing creation and showing artistry. So that's what I'm tied into now. And these channels, they upload a lot of content, and it nice 4K cameras, and the architecture is beautiful, and the design is amazing. And that's where I'm at now. I follow channels like that now. I follow a couple. I'm on my Lupe Fiasco. I got to come down and see what the 90% doing, right? But it's only maybe one or two that I follow from the conscious community like that. And then and even with the hip hop channels I follow, like I had to cut some of them off. You know what I'm saying? And just kind of shape my YouTube viewer, not viewership, but my YouTube engagement. I had to shape it. So when I come on, it's not a bunch of, so I just follow a lot of financial channels, architecture stuff, couple hip hop channels, just because I'm a hip hop guy, and maybe like two conscious, two guys from the conscious community, and and then that's it. I watch a lot of car videos. Like I'm just really in that zone right now, and it's better. Like my mind, not being bombarded with societal issues 24/7 is a relief. It's a relief.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you understand that game, so with that, I'll say, um, my artistry, excuse me, is beginning to take a turn. I feel to pure the only Thelonious monkishness. Like we just out here doing what comes to the mind and seeing where it goes. Some Fela Kuti, like we'll see what happens. Um, and that's just living in the moment, living in pure thought. You know, so not to labor on, but I just had to, remove a bunch of things, man. Had to what they say, clear the clutter.
Right. Yeah, that's real. Um, it is. We wonder what they call that controlled opposition.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you saw some of the reckless things people be saying. It's like, would they really be saying all that if they really thought that they were really in danger? You
Right.
know, and some people are being paid to appear to be super militant just to push the idea amongst the populace of having some type of Christ figure come and be sacrificed for you, because people still want that, you
Mm-hmm.
know, no matter if they denounce the Bible, and they can say all that all they want, but they still have that same basic motif of they want a savior, and you know I need to know what I need to know, but damn, I can't talk about what they doing. Look how they doing. I can't do that over and over. Like when I do all this studying on these hormones and shit, man, I can't do that to myself. Feed myself this over and over and feed myself sickness. You know, um, so back in
Yeah.
the day, we would say, get yourself some business. Back in the early 90s, get yourself some business. And I think that's like, it's important now. Everybody need to make sure that they got themselves some business something to tend to that they have decided it's important for them to tend to, and not
Yeah,
that somebody else has forced on you and said, this is what you ought to be paying attention to. No,
yeah,
fuck that.
right. Individual. We've been. I've been a proponent for individualism for the last few years. Peace, Jay. And what I say, like, if you can get yourself in some type of order individually, you know, you'll be better for some type of collective. You know what I mean? But you know, like you said, everyone's still pushing you towards the church model. Um, just gather here, gather over here, and we got it for you. And it's like, no, man, like people need to really recognize that. That's one thing I recognize with this, like having the reading done and having my chart explained to me and things of that nature. It's like this. You talked about the conjunction at the end of the year, and then I look at my chart. Like this is, we said this months ago when you were saying about, using this for your children and all of that. Like this is the model. This is, and I'm not saying everybody need to get a reading, or for a monetary reason for Jamal. What I'm saying is this shit helps you understand what's going on. Like if you understand that, and then you look at your chart, and listen, I don't know, like my wife into it, I could bounce. The blessing for me is I have my wife and I have Jamal. I'm not super into it like they are, but if I got a question, or they could give me an answer. Um, so, but what I'm finding out is, if everybody has a reading, then you could probably get a better understanding of what you're going through, why you went through maybe some things of that nature, and then it gives you like it, a cloud removes from you, because now you got like you got some answers a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And then you can start moving forward with it. You know what I mean? And like Jamal said, yes, we still live in society and life's still going to kick in and all of that. But now you got a little, oh, I'm feeling this, but the chart says such and such. Maybe this is why. And now you can kind of fight it. Where before you may have just, man, I'm down today. I don't know what's going on. And just sit in your room all day. You know what I mean? Because that was my model. So, um, now it's like I said, after admitting I'm going through these things or whatever, I told my wife it felt like it was a cloud lifted. Now, then Jamal telling me about the transformation in my chart. Okay, cool. Now I'm starting to get like a little bit of clarity, and it's not as bad as I think it is. Because we could get down in the dumps and just think shit is all terrible, And when I look at it too, and I know death is reflection, but when I seen my man Black Math passed away yesterday, the shit just tightens your perspective up, because, like I said, I didn't know him personally, but I knew him enough to where, when I got on the call, hey Dad, what's going on, man? I ain't heard from you in a minute, this and that. Like I said, we would chop it up on the hangouts. But it's like, yo, like my man just like Van Moof, gone. Van Moose gone. And it's like, I had a friend pass away last July. I had a friend pass away in February. Like dudes like I got history with these guys. I knew these guys' parents. Like it wasn't though we went to high school and might have blew a blunt or something one day. Like, nah, I really knew these dudes, and I knew their parents, and I knew their siblings and all of that type of stuff. And it's like, man, then you look at your life, and we always, oh man, my life ain't that bad. This dude just lost his, and his family, going through emotions and all of that. But but this just helps bring clarity to your life. And then if we do the actionable part and do the work, we'll there's intended benefit from the work. So, yeah. Yeah. I Yeah, bro. So it's not that bad, but I think the reading really helps. Um and then to have Jamal as like a or if you know someone else, to have him as a person that you can email and you know and say, man, look, this is what's going on, what is the chart saying? It's a blessing to have that in your pocket, because we didn't have that coming up. We had a different um set of people with a different type of knowledge base when we were coming up, you know, be it our uncles, our parents, cousins, friends, family, friends, whatever. But to have this gentleman, to have this man in your pocket to say, hey, look, this is what's going on with me. What does the chart say? And him being very forthcoming and and sharing what your chart is saying, uh, in my mind, is a blessing.
Yo, I appreciate that, brother.
Yes, sir.
Uh, one thing,
You're right, worthy.
um, yeah, that's heavy right there. One thing, C. Freemanell, as I've heard him say in lectures, is that either you control your mind or somebody else will. And the thing about these planets in the Hindu tradition, they call them Navagrahas. And Navagraha means grabber. And they're grabbers. And these
Mm,
energies grab us all the time. Even if you know about these mugs, they'll still grab you if you ain't on top of them and on top of yourself. So it's just not even about, it's good to have your chart read, but it's even better to learn how to read your own chart and how to study astrology. And because I always had that in the back of my mind, like especially with these younger folk when they come, like a lot of them say, "This is my first time having my chart read," and I'm like, "Okay, don't make this some traumatic experience that they have where they're like, I don't ever want to have nothing else to do with astrology. And I went to this quack and he read my chart and told me my foot was gonna fall off in 3 days. You know, because I'm always thinking this might be somebody who's gonna take off and get inspired and really get into studying astrology. Shit, they might end up becoming an astrologer.
mm-hmm.
Um, so that's the other thing too is you know at least everybody does it. It's advantageous for everybody to at least know how to go and pull your chart. Like there's astro-seek.com is an easy place. Cafe Astrology is another place you can go and pull your chart for free and at least become familiar with looking at the wheel and not being intimidated by all these lines and symbols and shit. Because I used to not know what none of that was. I could have never imagined that I would be able to pick up that, and not have to have the little description that they wrote out on the free website. Well, if you have such and such in the fifth house, you're probably an asshole with big feet and your breath stank. You know, um, and just to be able to look at the wheel for yourself, you know, and yeah, it's something that the more affluent. members of society have been doing for a long time. And here's the thing, and I'm gonna shut it down on this. I was like, damn, man, we had this conversation a while back, me and Dap, and some kind of way it got around to have cultures evolved from being more savage at an earlier time. And my thoughts were, we have to clarify which cultures we're talking about, you know, because the culture that set and left this science as our birthright were very civilized people who and we're starting to understand, what does it really mean to be civilized. It means to be able to sit still and to be able to focus and pay attention, because what it's like the opposite of what we're being pushed into, where our attention spans are in deliberately being shortened, not just by the man or the system, but by us. We are actively trying working against each other because we're trying to get each other's attention, you know.
Right.
But our ancestors sat and watched the horizon, or watched the heavens for thousands, if not millions of years, notating what they saw. Because for them to know that a great year is 25,000 years, that means they had to have been around at least 50, at least 30, to know that after 25, 26,000 years, that's the end of a great year.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And they had to at least probably seen at least 3 or 4 of those go by to even have the wherewithal that this time had elapsed. Oh, you remember our note showed that the last 25,000 years went by, such and such was on the horizon, eastern horizon. Oh, and so people who are foreign to the science have been controlling it and enriching themselves, enriching their lives, you know, knowing when to do certain nefarious things because they understand the cycles. It is your birthright to be able to tell time. That's all it is. It is your right to know what time you are and what time it is in the cosmos. It's your birthright.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's all I got, G.
Nice way to sew it up. I just want to say, check out the new music on Bandcamp. We have El Flamenco single, Figure This single. Uh, I have to do my due diligence now. I'll do it over the weekend to get them up on the streaming services. I got the album art. But yeah, if you want to support the music, you can hit us on PayPal or Cash App. Send a banner, and all the money will be going towards studio time. And when we find a videographer to create some videos, we definitely want to get a music video done. That's our next goal. Just we put it in the atmosphere, and we did. Thank you, Wise Feminine. We put that in
Yes,
the
thank you.
we put that in the atmosphere for studio engineer, and we found him. And now we put that in the atmosphere to find a videographer that is a person that is going to help shape the vision and be open to helping shape the vision of what, because me and Jamal have awesome video ideas, and we think that that's the next level to enhancing the music and to create some music videos. Um, and also, if you support us, you will have a shout out on Bandcamp on the song or project you donated to. So we had 3 people donate before their names is on. The names are on there, right, Jamal?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the names are on there um, for supporting the Cash App, and we use that money to go to the studio and do these 2 songs. So, um, we worker bees. As y'all seen the last few weeks, I was out cleaning. That's what I do. I have a cleaning business, me and my wife, and we're real people, and but we also artists, and we're trying to as much as support our families, also do our art. So, thanks for all that have supported or will support. But check the 2 new singles out on Bandcamp. That's www.thinkmusic with a Z at bandcamp.com. You can check that out. And the other music we have over there. You can also check us out on all the DSPs, all the digital streaming platforms. You can check us out there. And I don't even know what we have in the can musically next. To be honest with you, um but yeah, we got a lot of music in the tuck though for sure, because Jamal Penn has been on an amazing run. So there's things penned, but um, you know, we're just gradually putting it out. So that's all I have on the music front. Y'all could check me out, Dap Dunlap Music on YouTube also. Uh with this clarity I have now, I really want to get back to, doing some things on my channel. Thanks for who all came out on my last live. And I thought it was so dope because it was cats putting bars in the chat while I was making the beat. I thought that was like I thought that was very intriguing. And yeah, I feel like you know, I'm getting I'm whatever my transformation is, I feel like I'm starting to get an understanding of it. And I would like to ramp up some things on my end as far as like with my channel and personal things I'm going through. So I just want to say thank you for everyone. Thank you everyone that hangs out, listen to us. This is, like I said, being a personal person, to be on YouTube talking about my personal life and personal feelings is very huge for me. But I don't want to, like I said, I'm not the cliche guy. You always, well, my story can help someone else and all of that. But no, I really thank everyone for just for listening and being the ear and allowing me to share, man. And thanks for this platform, Jamal. Like I said, it's a blessing to know you and to have grown our friendship over the years, and to be at this point where we're doing a podcast out. We've been doing the music, but now doing the podcast. And honestly, this is like help. Like doing this podcast, I do this podcast more than I do anything on my own channel. So it's like, to be committed to doing this every week, you know, was also part of a transformation of like, bro, get back on your channel and do something. Like, you know what I mean? So this, doing these 20 plus episodes has been like another eye opener of like, okay, you do that on Fridays, like hop on your shit on the Tuesday. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, man, that's all I got. And be well, everyone.
No doubt. Hey, we'll catch y'all on the top side. And until then, y'all, I'm gonna have to hit you with the stay down till you get up. And when you get up, stay down.
Peace.
Peace.